take a glimpse of God on the horizon. Know that somewhere there's a place called home. Hear the message from the corridors of heaven and go running safely to the arms of the one you dance. Let them know who you are. Wear your love on your sleeve and diamonds in your eyes. Tell your heart, I know who I am. You will hear the child who runs with the wind. You will be the child who runs with the wind. You will love the child who runs with the wind. Who runs with the wind. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's very special program. I think it's a subject that's very close to everyone's hearts. Really, this whole thing of living in a world that's changing so quickly, so dramatically, and as parents, there's such a deep concern how to offer the best kind of support for our children in this changing world. And so I think one of the things is that it's every parent's wish that they can provide a world and a life for their child where there's peace, there's harmony, love, and prosperity. But in spite of this being the aim and the desire, we know that there are so many influences that a child faces today. And, in the past, our primary influence was our parents and our grandparents and extended families and cousins. And these days, we lived also in smaller communities, which played a huge role. But that has changed a lot. And so children of today are exposed to a diverse thought processes and ideas and lifestyle choices and things like that, which are based on the influence and the exposure to social media, which has become quite a key aspect. And there are many positive sides to it, but there are also some challenges to it. And as parents, I think you begin to see that in some ways, your own thought processes sometimes are being challenged by your child because Uncle Google knows more than your parents know. So it's a different world that we live in. And also the time being spent with children has become more limited because of lifestyle and the cultures we are in. So today I'm very pleased and happy to introduce and welcome our special guest, and that's Nadia Motara. And Nadia, I think there are many people here who are your friends that are tuning in just to see you because now you are in Doha. So it's lovely that you could be with us this evening, and just share your invaluable experiences and yeah, your inputs and insights. So just for those who don't know Nadia, firstly, Nadia is a mother of two amazing young women, Ilham and Razina, and also a grandmother. So whatever Nadia is going to share today comes from first-hand experience of raising children and a grandchild. And Nadia has been an experienced educator for over 34 years, which includes 23 years in senior leadership. Um, Currently, Nadia is involved in teacher development with specialization in cross-curricular values integration and also developing well-being programs to help staff and students cope with the impact of COVID on social and emotional health. Currently, Nadia serves as the head of primary at Al Maha Academy for girls in Doha and Qatar. And I think one of the things with Nadia as well, and it's been her passion, that it's not just education, but also values education. Nadia played a very pivotal role in South Africa in helping us promote the Living Values program here, but also now her work involves a lot of the values work that has really been at the heart of her passion in education. So Nadia, welcome, and it's really, really wonderful to have you with us this evening.
Lovely to be here, Pratiba. Hello, everybody. It's good to see so many familiar names. I'm looking forward to this evening, and I'm hoping that I'm not going to be doing all the talking. I think I'd love it for it to be an interactive session rather than me just doing all the talking. You did mention that I'm a mother of two. I feel overnight like I've become a mother of 2,000. I'm in a very big school, all girls school with 2,000 little girls all screaming out for help. So I'm happy to share my experiences, and I'm really looking forward to this evening.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. I think what would be really nice is that as we go along within the conversation, if you have questions and please put them in the chat because I will be looking at the chat and drawing from that as well for Nadia to respond to. And then maybe towards the end, we'll have a bit of space for people to add some comments and things like that as well. So I think just to start off, Nadia, and it relates to a lot of the work that you're doing currently. I think one of the impact has been the impact of social media. But I mean, since last year, we've also had COVID-19 that in one way has made the online platform an absolute necessity. I mean, who would have imagined that that's the way we're going to have to learn as students and work as well from remote spaces? So just a little bit of the work you have been doing in supporting both parents and teachers to navigate this time.
Thank you, Pratiba. I think young people around the world have been affected by violence, a lack of respect for themselves and those around them. They've been exposed to many negative role models. I do feel like children around the world are screaming out for help through no fault of their own. So much has changed over the years. At the moment, we're finding children spending an incredible amount of time online, approximately 5 hours for teaching and learning, and their recreation has become online as well. I feel this has had a negative impact in so many ways. Gone are the days where children are running outside and screaming and playing and jumping and running. They've pretty much, with COVID, been restricted to being indoors. I was reading an interesting statistic yesterday. The World Health Organization has just released a paper where they say the depression rates in children in the last year has risen by 8%. Now, this can be attributed, depression is directly linked to a lack of vitamin D. And I was just thinking the lack of being outside in the sunshine has actually affected children in such a negative way. Obesity rates have increased because children have been indoors. They haven't been doing much exercise. They've been eating a lot of junk food. Poor posture, poor eyesight from spending such a lot of time online. And generally, we've just received our kids back at school now after a period of about 2 months. And we've seen such a negative impact in their listening skills and in their communication skills, where everything that was taught has been lost and needs to be retaught. So a lot of negative impact. And like you said earlier, through no fault of their own, online learning, COVID. But I think it boils down to creating a balance, really, of how much time children spend online. If you really delve deeper into it, you'd be amazed at the kind of things that children are watching online. Lots of negativity. And sometimes as parents and as adults, what we need to do is just sit back and reflect and watch whatever children are giving back to us, perhaps is a reflection of what we are modeling to them. I work in an environment where there's very little parental engagement. So the children are brought up by nannies and drivers. So you can definitely just see the impact of that on children's mental and emotional health. At the moment, we're doing a lot for children, especially with COVID, looking at their emotional well-being, looking at programs like mindfulness, like growth mindset, just helping to develop tools and strategies for children to develop coping skills. We realize more and more that children are actually quite smart today. They don't have to rely on adults or, like you say, on Google. They actually do have within themselves the ability to cope. It's just about guiding them and exposing them to these tools that they can help, that they can use to cope whenever they are faced with a challenge.
Thank you. One of the things you just touched on has been this whole aspect that there's an increase in depression. And I think Diane also highlighted it last week when we had a program on bullying, that there's also an increase in suicide cases amongst children. So I think many parents, sometimes, get a bit of a shock that what can we do? And could we have picked it up earlier, or what are the signs that we can see so that we can help our child to manage the situation better? I think sometimes parents feel at a loss of not feeling skilled enough to be able to judge and pick up what's needed and how to respond to it.
Yeah, I think, children behave according to the way they feel. So for parents, it's about just being aware of what the possible signs are. Simple things like just demanding negative attention, asking lots of questions. What else? I'm trying to think of drop in grades, for example, at school, a sudden change in behavior. Sometimes these are such normal things and we're so caught up in our everyday work that it's the little things that we don't take notice of. And sometimes we just got to stop and take note of the little things, and then the bigger things actually take care of themselves. I was also thinking about the change in structure of the family. You were talking earlier about the role of grandparents. Um, Grandparents have just moved further away. And if both parents worked, the grandparent was always there to offer what was missing. And because that is not there anymore, children look to fulfill that need for love and attention elsewhere. And they turn then to social media, where they get the instant gratification. They post something, they get as many likes, so they're getting the validation that they need, but they're not equipped to deal with what comes with that. So they're not equipped to deal with that there may be the possibility of somebody commenting negatively, and how do I deal with it? And because they lack the tools to cope with that, it then leads to lots of cyberbullying, further depression, and then eventually something as fatal as suicide. We've had, especially in an all-girls school, lots of children attempting or writing about wanting to commit suicide. So I think it's a global issue where children are really crying out for help. They're craving for that attention, that need to feel loved. And I think if we can really just step into that very, very basic foundation for learning, which is love, and if we can ensure that that emotional love tank is full all the time, a lot of the problems would be solved.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I think one article I had read many years ago was just children that were brought up in an orphanage where their basic physical needs were taken care of, but they were not carried or played with. And those children developed with a very low IQ. It was almost like the learning process was inhibited because of a lack of that feeling of love and being cared for. I think many parents would like to be there for their child and be there to offer that kind of support and love to their child. But parents themselves are so stressed today and are trying to juggle many balls. Even the current change in the environment, sometimes they're struggling with it as well. And I think many times because they are struggling with it within themselves and are stressed, it's like emotionally they are unable to be available for the child in that sense. So just, from your experience and the parents that you've worked with, what have you sort of offered as tools and guidance for parents to, number one, help relieve their own stress, and also I'd like you to just touch on some of the tools that you feel parents can start encouraging their children to use to help them overcome those feelings of low self-esteem or challenges that they find because of being in the cyberspace so much. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Pratiba. I think my heart really goes out to parents today, especially younger parents who sometimes are children themselves and haven't learned the positive parenting skills that children so desperately need. We have regular coffee mornings where we invite mums. We're an all-girls school, so mainly mums that come in. And we share some of the positive parenting skills. One of the most recent ones that we did was the love languages, where we just looked at love as being the foundation of and for learning. If a child doesn't feel loved, they're unable to thrive. So we looked at, I'm sure you're all familiar with the love languages, but if you're not, I'll just very briefly touch on them. So children or people generally experience love in one of 5 ways. The first one is gifts. So you feel loved when somebody showers you with gifts. So if your love language is not gifts and you are gifted all the time, you may never feel loved. The second love language is words of affirmation. So a child whose love language is words of affirmation will thrive on positive praise and encouragement. But if their love language is not gifts and not words of affirmation, and you continuously praise the child, that child may never feel loved. So gifts, words of affirmation, quality time, the child feels love when you do something special together, baking a cake, washing the car, um, doing homework together, going for a walk together. So if a child's love language is words of affirmation and you're saying, wow, well done, Pratiba, that's amazing, but the child's love language is quality time, that child's still, the love tank is empty. And the fourth one is acts of service. And that is actually doing something for someone else. And the last one, and I think very important for children, is physical touch. Children feel loved through hugs and cuddles. Now, as a teacher, what we do with teachers first is train them on the love languages so they understand what the love language of every child in their class is, so that they're constantly filling the love tank. Oh, well, I know Pratiba sitting in the front, her love language is physical touch. So as I walk around the classroom, just a pat on the shoulder, well done, Pratiba, the love tank is full. Dipti's love language is words of affirmation. Wow, way to go, Dipti. That's excellent. Keep going. You're doing great. So Dipti's love language, love tank is full all the time. So we do that at school and we share that with parents so that it's reinforced at home. So the child's self-confidence, their self-esteem is kept at a high all the time. So the love language is one of the things that we do. One of the other tools that we use very effectively, and we've done this workshop with parents as well, is developing a growth mindset. So that the teachers love this because it's so closely linked to progress and attainment. So it not only improves self-esteem and well-being, but it also helps to boost student grades. So through your mindset strongly influences the quality of your life. So students learn that it's okay to make mistakes. They learn the value of positive self-talk. So instead of saying, I'm not good at this, they might learn to say, well, what am I missing here? Or I can't do this. We introduce the word yet. I can't do this yet. So they develop the power of the word yet. I've made a mistake. Mistakes help me to grow. So children develop this positive self-talk and they're able to, every time they find themselves in a challenging situation, they listen to the words that are repeated in their mind and they learn how to switch that over into positive self-talk. This I find really has been a very, very powerful tool. We constantly developing and improving through professional development, giving our teachers more and more ideas. Parents absolutely love it. And most of them speak Arabic here. So we've translated the growth mindset into Arabic. So it's cute to watch the kids as they're walking along the corridor and somebody complaining or somebody saying, oh, I can't do that, or that's really hard. You can't do that yet. So, and then the third tool, which we also have just introduced this year that has worked really well, especially now during COVID times, has been mindfulness. Now, here in the Middle East, we've got to be very mindful of not saying meditation because the word meditation somehow just has a negative connotation. So we use the word mindfulness. But what it really is just getting children to be still, going deep inside, getting in touch with who they are, being aware of their thoughts, and then just learning or teaching them how to concentrate, how to focus, how to deal with stress, deep breathing. So the mindfulness really has been this year, especially during COVID, very, very effective. So those are just three big ones that we use: the love languages, the growth mindset, and mindfulness.
That's beautiful. I think the tools that you're sharing are tools that adults should also cultivate, because I think so often it's even adults in a way need to also acknowledge and identify for themselves what affirms them in a positive way, and also the language that we use plays such an important role. One of the things that I was reflecting on, through our recent morning classes was that we all have an inner dialogue. And it's so important to almost step back and reflect is the quality of that inner dialogue, because that either enables you to develop inner energy, or it depletes your inner energy. So I love this, this tool that you described of having that positive language that we can begin to use. There's a question here by Andre. What percentage of children have a love of words of affirmation, physical touch, gifts, quality time, and how do we ascertain which love language is best suited to an individual child? Mm.
Great question. I don't have exact percentages for you, but what I can say is that physical touch and words of affirmation are the most common ones amongst children. And the easiest way to determine what your love language is to watch what you do for others.
Mm-hmm.
I, for example, I love to bake, so I'm always baking and sending to my neighbors. So my love language is acts of service and words of affirmation. So each of us have a primary love language and a secondary love language. Um, you know, I once taught a little girl in a lower primary, and every time I called the children to the carpet, there would be one little girl who raced to sit right in front. And she would touch my feet and want to touch my clothes and my legs and want to touch my hair. And I always just to say, oh, please stop that. You're not allowed to do that. But that little girl's love language was physical touch.
Mm-hmm.
And it was her way of reaching out. You know, if your love language is words of affirmation, and some of you may be able to relate to this, you cook a lovely meal or you do something great and you don't receive, your love tank is empty, you're waiting for a compliment. So you actually start fishing for compliments. So you'll say, did you enjoy the food? How was that? Do you like my new haircut? Don't you like this? So it's asking those questions that your love language then would be words of affirmation. If you're constantly touching or craving for a hug, love language, physical touch. Um, it's so important. I think even if you're in a relationship, for for you and your spouse to understand what your love language is, because if there's harmony in the house, if there's harmony between mom and dad, the rest
Yeah.
of the home will be fine. Because sometimes it's that this harmony between mom and dad that impacts on everyone else in the household. So the love languages are really, it's a book written by Eric Chapman. So if anybody would like to go and read, it's got a wealth of information. And there's love languages for children, and there's love languages for adults. So it's really a great read with lots of super ideas that you can use for your children or even for yourself. I know there's love languages for the workplace. I work with a staff of almost 350 people. So to keep everybody happy and to create this environment, this values-based atmosphere where everybody feels loved, safe, understood, valued, respected, I can only do that if I understand the people that I work with and what their love language is, because adults crave that as well.
Mm.
We need our love tanks full all the time.
Mm. I think one of the things that has tended to happen in recent times is that because parents are so busy and, stressed in some ways, we've often resorted to using gifts as a way of showing love, but it
Yeah.
hasn't fulfilling that need. So it's a good awareness to have that there's a specific need for each child. Yeah. And gifts won't substitute that need. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't buy love. Yeah.
Can't buy love. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another question here that's come up regarding this is, do love languages change from when you are a child to when you are an adult, or do they generally stay the same throughout your life?
They generally stay the same, but they do change based on your life experience. The more you expose, the more you learn, the more you grow, the more you evolve as a human being, you become less attached to certain things and you want other things. So it's just about at every moment understanding your feelings and where you are. But with children, it's really easy because it normally stays the same. You know, adults are difficult. So it changes all the time. But I mean, it's not drastic. You will have a primary love language, and I think it's that secondary love language that will evolve over time.
Yeah. Let's say adults are complex, not difficult.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, good. Okay. I think I'd like to ask you here, are there any tools or activities that you can recommend for parents to do with their children in a way that sort of, usually you're finding, and there's lots of interesting little clips that you see that children are so engrossed in their devices. And so what kind of activities that you can suggest that parents can begin to engage with their children more and almost in a way make it more attractive than their devices, if I may put it like
Yeah.
that.
I think the quality time is a big one. Simple things like having family time, having a meal together. You know, COVID has also resulted, I'm not sure back home, but here definitely we've got an online delivery food service called Talabat. So everybody's ordering food online, not sitting at a table and having a proper family meal where lots of conversation can happen. Children are sitting in front of the TV or in front while they're on their devices eating. So definitely, I think one of the important things for me would be to set the table, to sit down and have a family meal together. Um, Another simple thing would be to talk to your children about school, about their day. Here it's also very competitive, academically competitive. So, the first question a parent would ask is, "What were your grades? What mark did you get for your test?" A simple thing like asking your child, "What made you laugh today?" And just engaging in conversation. What we find, I watch the mums after school coming to pick their daughters up, and while they're asking for their daughter, they are on their mobile phones. So I think really it's about adults modeling to children what they want them to be. Whatever children see, and watch, they will copy and imitate and do the same. So I feel at many times, I feel as adults, we've got so much power. We have the power to change the future of the world. And it starts with what we want that future world to look like and model what we want so that kids watch us and they copy and they do the same. Going for walks, going for picnics, um, just this getting back in touch with the simple things that bring families together. Because, you know, if a child's self-esteem is high, if they feel secure, if they feel loved, they're not going to look elsewhere. One of the reasons children actually take to social media is because they're not getting what they need in the form of simply love, attention, recognition. So, you know, have a star chart on your fridge, set targets. This week, our goals are we're going to be doing this together. And every time, recognize them for little successes. Get them to put the sticker on the chart rather than you as the mom doing that for them, so that they take ownership of their behavior. And just lots and lots of praise and encouragement all the time. Validating their feelings, I think, is really important as well.
Beautiful. It's interesting that it's simple things that we need to do, but it's just sort of giving time and involving in activity, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. The other question I'd like to just pick up, and this is I took it from your little CV that you sent me, and one of the lines that stood out for me was that you said, "Over the years, I've worked with marginalized students, ensuring that no child is left behind." And so, what has helped you working with the child that may have come from difficult circumstances to realize and live their full potential? What has been sort of motivated you, but also inspired you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just looking at the child as a soul and
Mm.
recognizing that there's beauty in every single child that you teach. You know, the one thing that we do, particularly as teachers, is we like to compare, and you always have a teacher's favorite. And 9 out of 10, it would be the student who's an A grade student. But just really looking at each child in its purest form and recognizing the good and then focusing on the positive and helping that child to grow and knowing that years later you might be the one person who has made a little difference in that child's life. There are so many beautiful stories about teachers who have made an impact in children's lives. I'll share a story quickly. I lost my dad a few years ago, and when he passed on, a day or two after he had passed on, somebody had come to me and they said, look, we're really sorry. They came to sympathize. And it was a student from Soweto. And he said to me, I'm not sure if your dad will remember who I was, but I was the first Black student that was enrolled at an Indian school in Fordsburg. And he says, I wish your dad was alive because I wanted to tell him that he inspired me, and I went on to matriculate, studied to be a teacher, and now I'm back in my community teaching others.
Wow.
So, it's just about really believing in every single student that you teach and knowing that you may just be the one person who's going to make that change in that child's life.
Beautiful. I'm sure you have lots more stories of your own as well, of kids coming back to you and saying, Nadia, you made all the difference. Because it's true, your teachers play such a significant role in the way you see yourself and the possibilities you see for yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a story from you of your own experience, Nadia?
I have so many to tell. Really, I had a little girl that I taught 2 years ago, and we don't do many charity drives here because we have a national charity organization. We were raising funds for cancer, and there was a little girl in my class. She must have been about just 5 years old, and each child was asked to bring only 10 real, which is about 40 rand. And on the morning that we were collecting this money, here came this little girl, really messy hair, always seemed neglected, really just screamed out for help all the time, touching, feeling, talking all the time, bad behavior. And on that morning, she came with a handful of crumpled notes. And I said, what is this, Hamda? And she said, this is for charity, miss. And I said to her, but this is way too much money. I just need one of these. And I took the 10 real. And she said to me, no, I want you to take all of this. So when I counted it up, it was about 600 real. And she said to me, I had taken it out of my money box. And I kept on saying, this is way too much. I cannot take it. Take all of this back. And she looked at me and she said, I want to help somebody who is sick. And she says, you're not taking the money, you're stopping me from going to heaven.
Oh, sure.
So, this little teeny tot. So
Yeah.
children really have, those marginalized students have so much to give. I think you just have to look. And when you look for the beauty, you really will find it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, this brings me to the next question, and that's really a lot around the work that you have been doing within education, and that's around values. And I think one of the slogans of the Living Values program that I always liked when I heard it was that values cannot be taught, but they are caught. So really the modeling of behavior is what leaves a deep impression. But just, yeah, some of the work that you've been doing, because I know in Qatar, it's very systematic through the curriculum that you do the values work. But yeah, some of that, if you could share.
Yeah, lovely. We do a lot based on values here. It's done in a very beautiful, integrated way. So every year there's a slogan, and the values are actually determined nationally. And then it filters down into to departments or into sectors. So there's a common value or common purpose in the entire country, which really just makes it so much easier for us at school. So if we're working with the value of respect, you'll find that it's all over. You're surrounded by it. So we have a value focus per month. And then the country has a 2030 vision, which really just has underpinned certain basic values. We're gearing up for the World Cup next year. So it's really just looking at diversity and tolerance and acceptance. Um, so throughout the curriculum, throughout the day, in everything that we do, if the value focus is on respect, you'll find it's happening at school, it's happening in the supermarket, it's happening in store, in public places. So there's that national drive, and that just makes it so much easier for us. And then at school level, we break that down even further. So in the new year, which the new academic year, which starts in August, because of the World Cup, our slogan is from local to global. So just looking at the impact that we can make as global. So we live here, but what can we do as global citizens? So we're working really hard at developing global competencies, 21st learnings, 21st century skills that children need in order to cope and thrive in the 21st century world. So really very, very interesting. I think most important is the buy-in from everybody. So having that common vision and common purpose, that this is the kind of student we envision leaving the school after 12 years, and then just at each level working very hard at it, making sure that we meet the targets from a values perspective. And then we also have lots of activities that the children partake in, to give them the experience, because you cannot teach peace. You've got to experience what peace feels like in order for it to become part of who you are. So loads of activities that help kids to have that experience of love, of peace, of happiness, of kindness. So we have a monthly calendar that focuses, that gives you an effort for each day, depending if it's the month of kindness. At the moment, it's Joyful June.
Oh, lovely.
So, yes. So there's an effort each day on what you can do to become joyful and happy. So yes, very, very interesting, and lots to share, lots to learn as well. It's been fascinating just being here and learning just new ways of doing things. But the bottom line is, no matter where you go in the world, everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants peace. Everybody wants happiness. Everybody wants to be surrounded by goodness.
That's beautiful in a way that irrespective of our environments and circumstances, but at the core, there's a similar wanting and a similar experience that we're all striving towards. Just another question, having been in South Africa and then going to Qatar, Doha, it's quite a change. And how did you sort of adapt, and what you miss of South Africa, but what you have really been appreciative of being in Doha about? Yeah.
I think home is home. So definitely miss the greenery and just the warmth of the people. But Doha has got a beauty of its own. I've had the opportunity to travel around the other GCC countries, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Oman, Bahrain. There's something very beautiful about the Qataris, is that they hold on to their family values. So it's not uncommon to see mom and dad walking together, holding hands, children together. In other GCC countries, you'll find the men pretty much have their own lives, and the ladies have their own little social circles. I love the preservation of the culture and the heritage. They hold on to their traditions. There's a beautiful festival that they have in Ramadan. Halfway through Ramadan, they have a festival called Garangao, which is really just to celebrate that, you've done really well. It's for kids. You've done really well. You've made it halfway through. So the kids dress up in these colorful costumes and they go trick-or-treating to all the houses. There's lots of beautiful things here. And I must say I've enjoyed it. I do miss home sometimes, especially now. I haven't been home in 2 years with COVID. But yeah, it's just provided me with an opportunity to broaden my experience as a teacher. I work in an international school. The teachers that I have on my staff are mainly from Britain. We follow the British national curriculum, but I've got Jamaicans, I've got Australians, New Zealanders, Polish, Irish, Scottish. So it's really just given me that opportunity to work with teachers from around the world, and just help me, I think, to appreciate that South Africa has so much to offer, and that we sit in our little southern corner without realizing that actually we do have so much that we can offer the world. I've got about 6 other South African teachers that work with me, all lovely ladies, and all just embrace this new culture and just giving off our best while we are here. We won't stay here forever. We all look forward and talk about home almost every day.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we get excited by little things. If we see a milk tart or a cook sister, it's a big thing.
It's interesting. There's one question here that's come up, and that is, how is the digital tools being used to entrench values in the environment that you all are there, since it's from government level, but how are the digital tools being used? Yeah.
Great question. We are Microsoft Showcase school, so all our teaching and learning happens via Microsoft Teams. So our coffee mornings with mums instead of Zoom, via Microsoft Teams. We've just had an online graduation, Microsoft Teams. We've even had virtual assemblies, so we haven't stopped our values work. All our assemblies are linked to the value focus for the month. So it's getting kids to be engaged, to participate. The other thing that is very different in the way we teach in South Africa, I feel sorry, Pratiba, that in South Africa, it's still very teacher driven, where the teachers do all the work and the children are still passive learners. Whereas here, there's a lot of opportunity for student engagement, giving students the opportunity to take ownership of their own learning, using a range of cooperative strategies where they just learn to communicate effectively, to listen, to problem solve, to develop their character, to have a voice. Student voice is a big thing here, student and teacher voice as well. So just creating that very collaborative, participative style where people know that they can contribute towards making a difference. It's not a top-down approach, it's very much a bottoms-up approach. So even our accreditation, we've just had an international accreditation. The teachers drive the process, not the school leadership. We sit on the outskirts, and because you get an honest opinion of what is going on in your school when teachers are given a voice. And students are given a voice too in that process, where they can share what's going well. There's something that they do really nicely here, www, what's working well, and EBI, even better if. So it's just that constant daily reflection of, well, look, this is working really well. This is what needs to change, but done in a very, very respectful environment.
That's fascinating, and that's so important, because I think so much is linked when you can have an environment that a voice can be heard, and a voice can be heard in a safe space, because that builds self-esteem and confidence, and also builds respect in a deeper way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think, in a way, I mean, if we have teachers that are listening to your conversation this evening, to like tips for them to sort of start encouraging a more participative learning process in the classroom? I know that sometimes the complaint is that we have a lot to cover in the curriculum, so there isn't a space, but I'm sure there's little things that you can suggest that can make the process more participatory than such a top-down process.
Yeah, I think it boils down to, it's not what you teach, it's how you teach. We also have the British national curriculum is very loaded, but very similar and linked to the South African CAPS curriculum. I think it's about looking at strategies and tools that allow students to learn in the way they best learn. So, it's not looking at a one size fits all strategy, because every student learns in a different way. So it's really just about developing the skill to differentiate your lessons to cater for high, low, and middle ability students all the time. And then, that the cooperative strategies is a workshop on its own. We use strategies like think, pair, share. And this is my favorite because, you ask students a question and you say to them, we're going to be using the strategy of think, pair, share. I want you just to think for a minute and then find a partner and then share your experiences. So you teaching them to respond and not to react. When you ask the question, you don't just react, you stop, you think first. And when you're ready to share your thoughts and ideas, find somebody that you trust, that you can talk to. And listening is involved, so you're developing listening skills. And then after that, you've got to share your ideas in a bigger group with a larger person. So you've spoken to somebody you can trust, and then after that, you can share it with the bigger group. And just that simple strategy has helped with behavior management. When they get involved in an argument or a little tiff with somebody, they don't just react. You'll find them think, pay, and then share. They do the actions and they'll say, okay, well, we haven't done this. So, and then reflection. I think the planning of lessons is really, a lot of time goes into planning lessons here. And just looking at, children learn so much differently today. The strategies that we used when we were at school just don't work anymore. So it's just keeping up to date with the way children learn. Lots of integration of technology into lessons, participative games. We've got lots of online tools learning tools that they use very effectively. For example, we've got a tool called Century Tech, which is really just an artificial intelligence program that detects where your gaps in learning are, and then it devises in whichever subject, English, maths, or science. It then designs a special program for you to bridge the gaps. So, I think also, just thinking back to home, it's about having the resources. And for most schools in South Africa, that is a problem. So I think working in an environment where the resources are easily accessible and teachers are continuously trained. Every single Thursday, teachers are upskilled in professional development, looking at needs. So when we went on to online learning, it was really easy because teachers were already equipped to use Microsoft Teams. It's something we've used for the last 3 years now.
So, as you were sharing the tools and the think, pay, and share,
Yeah.
it's like, it's great, in a classroom environment, but it's something that parents can also integrate within the home environment, because it's teaching a child how to respond rather than to react. I remember a friend of mine who, when she brought up her kids, they're adults now, but when they were kids, she used to tell them that if they were naughty, she'll make them sit in opposite corners of the room. And she said, I want you to think about what you're doing. And is there a better way to do it? And it took them 15 minutes or 20 minutes to make them sit in their corner and think about it. And then bring them back and say, okay, now what do you have to tell me about it? And at a certain point in her career, when she was moving on, and they asked her daughter to share, and she said, Mom, I so much would have wished if you just slapped us on the backside and told us to move on, but you made us think, And so it created more than just a behavior tool, but it was also developed a kind of a maturity in the child, which was very interesting. Yeah.
The other one that we use very effectively is the 6 thinking hats.
Yeah.
So whenever there's a new topic introduced, or even when it comes to conflict management, it's wearing a hat. So you divided lots of cooperative learning. So group work. So this group, you wearing your black hats today. The next group, you wearing your yellow hats, your green hats. And when you give them a topic, they brainstorm it from a variety of different angles. So those with the yellow hats, it's sunny yellow. So you look at all the positives. If they're talking about water conservation, for example, the yellow hats would look at all the positives. The green hats will look at the impact on the environment. The black hats will look at all the negatives. How's water dangerous? So, just giving kids the opportunity to explore topics in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, great. If anyone has further questions or comments, you're welcome to just share that, unmute yourself if you would like to, before we end for the last things.
Can I just ask something?
Oh.
You did mention about the concept of hugs and physical touch. With the reality of the world that we are living in these days, especially in the West, it's a topic that we are very, very careful with. I mean, I was a teacher, and I was told more or less, be very, 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 very careful how you use these approaches. And, it's as much as you can see a child crying sometimes, and yet you have to think 10 times before you can even use a touch. And touch is going to be very important for that person. But all the time you abstain yourself from doing that for the fear of repercussion of some sort. What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a very valid point. Safeguarding is a huge issue here as well.
Yes.
So we tend not to, with the students at school, we tend not to hug, but just a pat on the shoulder, a shake of the hand, knocking the fist together, little touches like that. Even that is effective. But the hugging, we also really mindful about that. But if you're just talking from a parent point of view, so that you can, I think, give the hugs and the kisses and the cuddles and,
Yes, sure. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think we have space for one more question before we close.
Shanti, good evening, Nadia. This is Andre from Cape Town.
Hi, Andre.
I'm very keen to have you share just a little bit more about how you've used digital platforms in the education process, specifically to nest values, and what are the digital pedagogies, teaching methods that you as educators have had to adapt to keep high levels of engagement with the students in the learning process? Because, I like this concept you shared of our engagement with the learners is what's driving. It's not preach and teach. So talk to me a little bit about how you're making the engagement happen, the platforms you're using in a bit more detail, other than Teams and the AI platform, which I think I'd like you to talk more, but what is the pedagogy driving your engagement strategy digitally?
All right. So the children all have their own tablets, school tablets, on which they have all the online tools that we use. Teachers prepare. We've moved from blended to synchronized learning. And what synchronized learning really is, it's watching the lesson live while the teacher is teaching in class, and the students can see what's going on the screen, with a group of children in class and those logging in from home. So they have a basic PowerPoint that they use, and embedded in the PowerPoint are interactive videos, games, Kahoots, quizzes. Um, they have the starter activity, for example, could be the PE department just engaging the students in a bit of physical activity. And then, we found with online learning, the children unable to concentrate for very long periods of time. So we've tried to chunk the learning and break it down into short, powerful bursts of 10-minute input, and then giving the opportunity for the children to go back. And with Microsoft Teams, they've been able to work in groups as well. So it's giving them that opportunity, and then using features like the chat box in Teams to communicate, to ask questions, and then uploading work as they move along, teachers marking and giving them feedback online. So really just using tools like girls, talk to your partner now, I'm giving you a few minutes, and then coming back and feeding back to the bigger class. So it really has taken a lot of teacher development and a lot of skill involved in actually doing it successfully. Not every teacher has gotten it right in an outstanding way, but it is something that we have developed and have become better at as the year has progressed. But it's not the ideal way to learn. Children thrive on that one-on-one, face-to-face engagement and interaction with the teacher. I'm happy to share, if you, maybe through Pratiba, if I can get his email address, I'm happy to share some of the tools and the links that we use for student engagement.
Okay.
That
Nadia,
would be
one
really
last.
appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, one last question. How do you encourage a 14-year-old girl to go for a walk in nature with you instead of watching a sci-fi movie on Netflix? That's a challenge.
That's a difficult one. 14-year-old girl, wow, that's such a difficult age. I think, it all sounds so easy, but it's really just doing things together, perhaps a reward, talking or encouraging the importance of a healthy lifestyle. A difficult one, that because I've got a granddaughter that's 9 and I struggle with that. So that's always no, I don't want to, lazing around. I watched today, the children are writing exams, and I just observed the posture of the children. The children slouch, they don't walk up straight, they drag their feet, they hold their pencils, the wrong way around, and just the impact of lying and watching a movie. But anyway, perhaps watch a movie with them and then say, right, after the movie, let's do this together.
Yeah, go for a walk and talk about
Let's
the
go for a
movie
walk.
then.
Yeah. Or I'll buy you an ice cream while we're on the walk.
Now we're using gifts as love, hey?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Is that a gift or emotional blackmail?
I think it's more emotional blackmail than anything else.
Good. Okay, thanks, Nadia. I think what we'll do is we'll just take a few moments for a short meditation. And I think it's been wonderful, your input and sharing your experiences. And there's a wealth of knowledge that I think many people appreciated what you shared this evening. So let's
Sister
have a
Pratiba,
Yes.
may I take the opportunity just to say hello to Nadia? It is good to see her and hear her. If she recognizes my voice, it's
I
Kadrivalan.
absolutely do recognize your voice. How you, brother?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. You still look good, man. Well, I just maybe in ending, and I know the meditation is very close, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for participating. We appreciate that.
Welcome.
Yes, I think we need to find a way of how we can possibly fill the world with our common values. I think we need
Absolutely.
to, you need to come up with some suggestions. But wonderful, man.
Lovely. It was lovely meeting all of you again.
Thank you. Well, we're going to hold thumbs that things open up soon and you can come and be with us in person soon, Nadia.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping to travel in July,
Okay.
but keeping an eye open on the numbers.
Yeah.
We've all been, every single teacher in the country has been vaccinated here.
Okay.
We cannot teach if we're not vaccinated, and the numbers have come down. So everything is open, and I've just moved house, so everything is very empty at the moment. But I'm right on the beach, which is lovely.
Okay. Wonderful. Great. Okay, so let's just take a few moments and have a meditation. Thanks. So I invite you to just take in a deep breath and allow yourself to relax. With each breath in, take in that feeling of peace and calmness. And as you breathe out, release. Let go and return to that space within yourself of inner quietness and peace. At the core of our being, we hold a treasure store of jewels, the jewel of love, the jewel of wisdom, jewel of light, the jewel of peace. And in this moment, let's allow ourselves to just reconnect with that pure essence of who we are. And allow the heart to embrace and cherish these divine qualities which we have inherited from the one source, the one divine source of light and love. And as we allow our being to become filled and enriched and awakened to this inner core of who we are, its beauty radiates outward. And so each one of us, as an awakened soul, becomes like a lighthouse to reflect the light of these higher values into a world that's seeking for direction, that's seeking for hope, that's seeking for some sense of guidance. Our being is what serves. So just take these few moments and in silence, cherish these precious qualities. Cherish this pure inheritance from the divine. Cherish the beauty that you are. So thank you all, and big thank you to Nadia. And I'm sure soon we'll reconnect and have another session with you, because there's a lot more that I know that we can engage with. So thank you, Nadia, and best wishes to you and to your family as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Pratiba. Stay well. Chat again.
Righto. Bye.
Bye.
May truth be beside you, truth be before you, truth be behind you, as queen of your heart. May truth be the vision in eyes that see you, in ears that hear you. May truth never part. Light be your laughter, light be your smiling, light be your true guide. When darkness comes, may light be your first love. In all that you honor, all that you worship, may light be your home. In all that you say, in all that you do, may nothing but light be surrounding you. And peace in your thinking, and peace in your dreaming, and peace in your speaking. May peace be the tone of each waking moment you spend here on this earth. May peace be your vision until you find home.